now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@caymanmarlroad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good folks. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. Let me just mic up here. I've got a whole new setup that you guys can't really see from where you're sitting, but I am going to share it with you here in a second. Buenos dias. How is everyone? Are you hearing me loud and clear? I do need to adjust this light. Oh, there we go. I think that's a little bit better. How does that look? You guys can see me? Ta-da! I think that's better. This light can be a little bit, we don't like when it's too harsh. We're adjusting the tones, the light tones, so I look natural. But at the same time, let me see how that looks. Nope. Nope. All right, so we gotta kick it up a notch here. All right, I think that's good. I'm still playing with my light settings. That's like 25%. That's 20%. Whoa, that's like way too bright. All right, folks, so we're gonna make sure it looks natural tones. So good morning, everyone. There, I think that one's okay. Yes, how are you beautiful people doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate the love and support. I still feel like my light is a little bit off. Good morning to Olivia. Good morning, Catherine. Thank you. Whoa. That's way too much. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I think the positioning of my light is off. So we will see what we can do about that a little bit later on. Good morning, Miss Shirley. How are you? Good morning, Miss Beulah. Lovely day today. Lots of rain, Miss Beulah says. Yes, it is a rainy day. But we are so thankful for the rain. The forecast, I think, is we're going to have rain going into the weekend. So prepare yourselves for that. And basically, you just want to carry your umbrella wherever you go. Yalorde, good morning. Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy muy bien, gracias. By the way, my daughter came home a couple days ago singing this song. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás? Don't make fun of me. I cannot sing. If you know me, you know that I can't carry a tune to save my life, but that's okay. So yes, in school, they were doing music and they were singing a song that apparently goes something like that. And she's like, I'm speaking Spanish. And I say, you go, girl. All right. So much is going on in the world around us. Quite frankly, Atlas is here. Good morning, Atlas. How are you? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Miss Joy, all the way from Texas. Yes, the beautiful Miss Joy is here for it. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm still tweaking my light in the background, by the way. So if you see it kind of being adjusted, that's what's going on. I'm just trying to subtly bring it within. Like I need enough light to just light up my face, but want to make sure it's not like blaring in my eyes so I can see. Javier, good morning. Buenos dias. Brandon. Jason says TGIF. It is Fab Friday, folks. So welcome. Lourdes is giving me approval of, I think, my Spanish. Thank you so much. Suzine, is that how you pronounce your name? A lot of rain here in Bonaca, Bay Islands. Ooh, big shout out to my friends in Bay Islands, Honduras, Saiba, all of Honduras, Tegucigalpa, wherever you are, if you're tuned in from Honduras. Thank you so much for watching. And Cayman Brac, we've got listeners in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Thank you as well. Thank you, Miss Joy. I appreciate it. I see something sticking out. You know, one of these little, if you're a woman, they always give you these things in your clothing that help you put them on hangers. Evelyn, hey, honey, how are you? Bucci, thank you. Diana, good morning. And Leslie from Florida is listening. So I've been watching the last couple days some Tampa news on TV. And gosh, it made me reminisce about Tampa life. You guys know I lived in Tampa for 15 years. I pretty much grew up in Tampa because I went when I had just turned 9 years old, and I didn't return until I had finished university, my first degree, and I was an adult. And so Tampa gives me a lot of, I reminisce about Tampa and the good old days of growing up there, my university days. Your university experiences are something you kind of never forget. They're like embedded in your brain. It's such a time of growth, I think, for any young person. You're kind of away from home for the first time, and there's just so much to learn as a young person. That's why I think a lot of times I see Caymanians who have lived here their entire lives, never had the benefit of traveling, never had the benefit of like being around people from different cultures outside of Cayman. And I think it's a bit of a disservice, really, to you. And, I wish that everyone had the opportunity to go abroad and to spread your wings and to see something very different and experience that. I think it was, in terms of my life, one of the most meaningful experiences that I've had because I got to meet so many people from different walks of life. It really just broadened my horizons, made me appreciate different cultures even. So I think that there's a lot to be said for university life. And you're around other young people. Everyone is full of hope. Good morning, Marshall. You do road trips, you go on camping trips with your university friends. And I was not a camper at all until I started university. And then we used to go camping. I'm still not a camper because I like to glam camp or whatever they call it. So in other words, I can't really rug it too much. I still need a toothbrush. I still need to get up every day and brush my teeth, and I want to be having a shower and all these things. So I'm not the kind of camper that's going to be in the bushes for like a week without a shower. I'm like, no, thanks. That's not the camping life for me. But I love sitting by the campfire, telling stories, roasting marshmallows, all this fun stuff that you do when you go camping, even like collecting the logs for the fire, all of those things are just so much fun. So when I sit down now and I watch Tampa news, I'm always trying to pinpoint. I was just saying to my husband, there's so many different areas of Tampa now that when I was there back in the 80s and 90s, honestly, it didn't really exist. So there's a lot of new names. And if they did exist, they were like the outskirts. They weren't really considered the main areas. So a lot of times they didn't even get the news coverage that they're now getting. There's New Tampa. When I was in Tampa, New Tampa didn't exist. It was nothing but bush, honestly. It was like far out there. Now, New Tampa, I think, is a desired area. There's that international mall, I think, that's pretty close to New Tampa. And the city has just like spread out and grown. So it's so amazing. I haven't been to Tampa in a number of years, but as soon as COVID, post-COVID life, we don't know what it's really going to look like in terms of travel. It will never be the same again because COVID is going to be with us for years. But I'm looking forward to being able to travel and feel safer traveling. And Tampa is definitely on my bucket list. I mean, I've got a huge bucket list, but Tampa is definitely on that for sure. So big news this morning, folks. In case you missed it, in case you are a hermit and you're living in a hole and you did not watch any news last night and you did not watch any news this morning, the president of the United States has COVID-19. So yes, he has finally gotten it. Now, this is a man who has said that COVID-19 is, it's a hoax. I do know that I feel like it's still, the show is still too dark, but I'm trying to adjust it as we speak. And the light is actually on, but of course we know that today is a very dark day outside. So yes, the president and his wife both have COVID-19. And well, it's about to get interesting, I guess. Kind of crazy. But he has tested positive. So, Trump has called it a hoax. He has said it's not real. He said all sorts of things. So there are literally people who are sitting back now thinking to themselves, if there's such a thing as karma, this could very well be a prime example of what karma looks like. Now, I don't know if there's such a thing as karma or not. I kind of feel differently about karma, I think. Listen, I just believe your consequences have actions, and you don't necessarily have to call it karma. It just is what it is. And so the president had traveled with one of his senior advisors. I think she's a 31-year-old young lady by the name of Hope something or another. And she actually has coronavirus. And she was in close contact with him this week. She went with him on Air Force One. She went to the presidential debate on Tuesday. She traveled with him again on Wednesday to another campaign stop. And so being in close quarters with someone who is coronavirus positive will almost certainly guarantee that you will get it, because they're touching surfaces that you're touching. It's airborne. And of course, he made the announcement via Twitter last night. Now, here's the ironic thing. Everyone was kind of thinking that he had it even before he made the announcement, because he first said that he would be making, he first said that he would be going into quarantine after it was confirmed that his advisor had it. And he was obviously in close contact with her multiple times this week. And, an airplane, pretty close contact, right? 31-year-old Hope Hicks. This is a man who does not like to wear a mask. He's probably not washing his hands all that often. And you know what? He has not been the poster child for COVID-19 and the things that you should do by any stretch of the imagination. He's kind of just flown by the seat of his pants and laughed it off to a large extent. It's just, he has said so many different things about this. And so now people are kind of like, all right, if that's the case, you'll be fine because you've been taking hydroxychloroquine, according to the president, and he claims that that is amazing. So he can continue in that regimen and see how well that works for him. He has, said everything about we could potentially ingest Lysol or disinfectant or whatever. I mean, he's just been all over the map in terms of giving advice. So Starr says that he didn't say it's a hoax. Don't drink the liberal Kool-Aid. Well, let's have a look then at precisely what he did say. So during a February 28th, 2020 campaign rally in South Carolina, President Donald Trump likened the Democrats' criticism of his administration's response to the new coronavirus outbreak to his efforts to impeach him, saying, "This is their new hoax." During the speech, he also seemed to downplay the severity of the outbreak, which we know he has done more than once, comparing it to the common flu. So technically, you are right. He did not call the coronavirus itself a hoax. What he said is the criticisms of his administration in relation to how they're handling the outbreak is their new hoax. So whatever kind of way you can figure that one out. President Trump has said a lot about the coronavirus that is not true. Let's have a look at some of those things. 7 of Donald Trump's most misleading coronavirus statements. He claims nobody knew this would be a pandemic or an epidemic of this proportion. Well, we all know that that is false and that he had received advice pretty early on of what was happening. And he just kind of ignored it, essentially. He claims, and this is a quote from him, I would view it as something that just surprised the world, he said in a press conference. Nobody knew there would be a pandemic or an epidemic of this proportion. In a separate briefing, he also said, I just think this is something that you can never really think is going to happen. Okay. It seems like the Trump administration, however, was warned about pandemics in general, and that there would be a big one coming fairly soon. For example, during the Obama administration, the National Security Council drew up a 69-page playbook on fighting pandemics, is what it's been called. And the document, crafted in the wake of the 2016 Ebola outbreak, contained advice on tracking the spread of a virus, how to ensure testing was conducted effectively, and the need to stockpile emergency resources. The incoming Trump administration was briefed on the playbook, but said it was thrown onto a shelf, according to an anonymous official quoted by a news source. Okay, so this isn't the administration's only insight into the threat posed by the pandemic. In October, an internal federal government report warned how unprepared and underfunded the US would be in terms of tackling a virus without a cure. He has also said it's going to disappear. He just said this up to the other day, actually, during his presidential debate. One day, it's like a miracle, it will disappear, he has said. He claimed early on that anybody who needs a test is getting one, and that clearly has not been the case. They do have the rapid test, which he took last night, they suspect, and that is likely why he immediately went into quarantine, because although the rapid test does have a higher false positive rate, I believe that this would have been the first time that he did receive a positive, because remember, he has had tons of people around him infected with the coronavirus, and he has never gone into quarantine. So this is actually his first time going into quarantine when someone around him has gotten it. And, reliable sources believe that the reason for that is that he took the rapid test, him and his wife, Melania, and they got the results that the rapid test was positive. So as a preliminary measure, they went straight into quarantine, which he announced, I think, right around 11 o'clock or so. And then the more reliable PCR tests can take up to a couple hours. So the big question really is, he came out right before midnight and said that he is positive. He tweeted it to the world. And the question now becomes, well, first of all, anyone else who's been around him, so all of his other senior advisors who've been hanging out in the White House, hanging out on Air Force One, because I'm sure Hope Hicks was not the only one in Air Force One with him and his wife. Now they all need to get tested again. And so there's a very huge possibility that a lot of his senior team could have the coronavirus, which is something else to think about. So star, okay. At the end of the day, what does this mean for the US presidential election? This is the first time, I think, during a presidential election that a president who's running has come down with something that he has to self-quarantine with. And how does that impact him? That means he cannot be out and about, going to his different political stops and, trying to convince people to vote for him. It means that, I guess, theoretically, there will not be a second presidential debate in person. With modern technology, though, he could do it remotely. He could Zoom in and they could do it that way. And maybe that's a better option for him, because he was so out of control on Tuesday. Having a mute button might be something that could be very beneficial to the moderator. So the moderator can just say, answer a question. When he starts to go off the rails, then he just hits the mute button in Zoom and he's able to mute him. I don't know if that's going to happen. So Star says the Obama administration decided to get rid of the plan. Okay, then. So in 2 weeks, he will have immunity, they say. Not really. If he has no symptoms, Star, in 10 days, he will be tested again. And at that time, depending on the results of that test, he will either be cleared to continue, or if he comes down with symptoms, he will have to be tested from the day of, how does it work now? I'm trying to get this right. So when you're symptomatic, the test shifts. So you then get tested 10 days out from when you show no symptoms. I believe is how it goes. I'm going to verify that for you guys, because it gets a little tricky when you are actually symptomatic. So Trump is also, as you know, 74 years old. So he is in a high risk category. And a lot of people are saying that this is a game changer now. The fact that Trump has tested positive along with his wife. His wife is in a little bit of a better position because she is quite a bit younger than him, right? And she seems to be pretty healthy. I don't think she has any underlying health conditions. President Trump, like many of us, is considered obese. So unlike Melania, he is Star. We don't, oh my gosh, am I going to have to sit here and dispel every single coronavirus myth this morning? There is no proof that there is any long-term COVID-19 immunity. The antibody testing, as you can see, even in this jurisdiction, they are not really putting much of anything into it. How long does immunity last after COVID-19? Here's what we know. This is as of September what's the date on this? This is as of, I think, September the 17th or 19th. Okay. So for those who recover from COVID-19, new research shows that immunity to the virus probably lasts up to 3 months. That's not long-term immunity. Let me just see. So what we know, according to Lauren Rhoda, PhD, a senior postdoctoral fellow in immunology at the University's Washington School of Medicine. I think we need to believe what she says. She seems to be the expert. She says, we don't know for certain if people are immune to reinfection simply because not enough studies have been done yet. So, my dear Star, you cannot make that comment, according to the good doctor. However, she did say that work has been done by her research team as well as others, showing that the antibodies against the virus are maintained for at least 3 months. In her team's preprint study in particular, which has yet to be peer reviewed, it was shown that this occurs even in people who have mild symptoms. So the antibodies might be there. They don't know, however, if that will protect you against reinfection, is the bottom line. So I wouldn't be tooting the herd immunity or immunity argument too much in his favor. So they don't know yet, and they're still doing a lot of studies. There is a New England Journal of Medicine research study that is going on with over 1,100 people. We have known, however, of people who tested positive more than once for the virus. So then that begs the question, how much of an immunity you get. Star, no one is certainly telling you not to have a reasonable discourse, but you do have to look at the comments and see how you have all of a sudden taken over the conversation with your singular opinion. You're entitled to it, but like that last opinion, it's not really accurate, is it? The questions remaining to be answered Are you protected after infection? How long does the protection last? Are these factors related to the patient, such as age? Does that impact immunity in any way? Are these factors related to the virus, such as the severity of the illness that can affect immunity? What's the best way to measure immunity? All of these things, folks, we do not know. The scientific community does not yet know. So, Star, how you could know it, I don't know. Star, be a star, be a star. So, Trump is considered, like I was saying, overweight. A lot of us are, and this elevates a risk of complications from the virus. He is 90% more likely to be hospitalized than someone who is in their 20s who also gets the virus. And he is 5 times more likely to, is it die from the virus? Hold on. I don't want to say that if that's not true. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to tell you exactly because we actually posted this online. I think it's 5 times more likely to die, though. Like, the virus is nothing to joke about, despite the fact that he has downplayed it. His supporters have downplayed it. They have said, it isn't real. It's this, it's that. It's something that needs to be taken very, very seriously. The irony of all of this is on, what's it called? On Tuesday at the presidential debate, he actually made fun of Biden for wearing a mask. So when they were asking him about, why don't you encourage people to wear a mask and why don't you wear a mask? He actually said during the debate, he pulled out a mask out of his pocket. Now, I did not watch the debate, so I just watched this particular clip. And he pulled out the mask out of his pocket and said, I have a mask right here. I can wear it if I want. But, I'll decide when I'm going to wear it. And see him over there. He wears it all the time. Even if he's socially distancing, he still wears it like an idiot kind of thing, was his comment. I'll see if I can find the clip of him making fun of Biden about. It's like even when people hear what Trump says, his supporters, they refuse. I mean, this is just amazing. They refuse to acknowledge and to accept what this man is actually saying. He made some comments where he refused to, talk about these racist groups that are very supportive of him because they know he supports them. And he refused to say this is wrong and I'm not going to support these organizations or these groups. And there are people who saw that in the debate and walked away arguing that that isn't what Trump meant or that isn't what he said. I mean, the excuses that are made up for him is just amazing. So Trump has made fun of Joe Biden for wearing a mask on numerous occasions. It's nothing new. It goes back for months. At one point, 4 months ago, he mocked him. Last week, he mocked him again at another rally. He's mocked him wearing the mask as well as how he wears it. And I mean, the list just goes on and on and on again. He's talking about Joe Biden wearing his mask and paper straws. It's just, you cannot make this stuff up. And it's actually there. Here we go. Here's the one during the debate. This is the clip I'm looking for. So give me 1 second. I'm going to show it to you because I know Star isn't going to believe me. Star is going to say we made this up. And if you watched the debates, I'm sure you would have seen this. So just give me 1 second. Because this is how, sorry, give me 1 second here. This is how incredibly nonchalant Trump has been about all of the things that, we have been told works, right? So everything that we are told works. Social distancing, washing your hands frequently, mask wearing, quarantining if you've been exposed to like travel and all this stuff, not having large gatherings. And listen, Trump has had large gatherings. Remember when he had a rally when they were first coming out, okay, he's going to be the one again for the Republicans, and he had a big rally. I forget the exact location, but the facility that he was hosting the rally at actually took precautions to put like spaces in between seats. Of course, he claims that he was going to have like 1 million people show up to this venue. He had very few people, relatively speaking. But, the facility was trying to undertake and put measures in place that ensured that there was some degree of social distancing, because the way that you expose yourself the most is when you go into locations such as bars and restaurants and churches that have a lot of people congested in a very small area. And so a political rally of any sort would be the exact same thing. And people in the Trump administration, actually his advisors and his political team, they went around and ripped off all of the, like it was like, don't sit here sign. They ripped those off, encouraging people to sit as closely together as they possibly could. Because then when they put the camera on a specific area of the arena, it would look like, because everybody's bunched up together, that, oh, we have a full house. And so those types of actions really are quite unbelievable, to say the least. Yeah, Sue, I mean, I get when you like someone that you want to be supportive of them, but there's no one walking the face of this earth that I could like so much that I'm going to defend them where I make myself look stupid, And a lot of Trump people, I mean, I've got friends who support him and they think, oh, he's great for the economy. He's this, he's that. I'm thinking, really? I just have to shake my head and I just change the conversation, because I cannot engage. Like there's something in my brain that is just like, Sandy, just leave this alone. You cannot change his supporters and what they think of him. They do not exist in the world that we exist in, and they don't see his actions for really what they are, as disturbing as they are. Now, I'm not going to say every supporter is like that, because in fact, there have been a number of people who supported him previously, who now are saying there's been so much that he's done that they really can't ignore it. But his hardcore supporters, like he has said before, he could literally commit murder and nothing would change. Absolutely nothing would change. There you have it. All right, so let me just pull up this video here for you. I want you guys to see how he was making fun of Biden. Give me 1 second here. So this was just Tuesday at the debate.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think masks
efficacy
are okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Also said the opposite. Okay, well, now you got it, President Trump. Good luck to you. We wish you well. I know there are a lot of people who are not wishing him well. Honestly, there are a lot of people who are like, you know what? This man has downplayed this virus, and Americans have lost how many lives now? Let's just get a COVID update for America, because I know that we haven't had one in a while. So let's look at the numbers. So 7.4 million cases and over 212,000 people dead. So there are people whose loved ones have died. There are people who are still fighting it, of that 7.5 million infected persons. And again, keep in mind that that is not an accurate reflection in terms of there are more people who've had it who've just not been symptomatic, and there was no need for them to be tested. And so, yes, those people have the coronavirus. Lots of people have died, over 200,000. They're thinking that by January could be closer to potentially even 500,000. There appears to be no slowing down of this virus for the US. And a lot of people do feel that Trump is directly responsible for the messages, the incorrect and false messages that he has put out there that have caused a lot of people to be less than cavalier, or less than concerned, I should say, being extremely cavalier about the virus. So yesterday they had at least 847 new deaths, 46,459 new cases. And over the past week, there's been an average of 43,000 new cases per day, which is an increase of 8% from the average just 2 weeks before. So as of Friday morning, that's today, more than 7.3 million people in the United States have been infected with the coronavirus, and at least 207,000 have died, according to a New York Times database. And there are other numbers that take those figures a little bit higher. There is a map here, I think, that speaks volumes to exactly how bad the situation is. Let me see if I can pull up this map for your benefit. There have been a lot of very hard hit areas, including Florida. Puerto Rico has gotten hit really, really hard. And, like I said, there's some people going into the election that the handling of this pandemic will certainly play a role in their in their voting process and exactly how they vote. So it's a hot mess, as I would say. Here's the COVID map. So yeah, the US is pretty riddled with it, if we were to be honest. So Suzette says he's got the cure. All right, well, we'll see. If he's got the cure, then we have nothing to worry about at all, and he will be perfectly fine. And so we can continue on discussing other things. But cases remain persistently high across much of the country. A new infection surge in the upper Midwest and parts of the West. However, the number of new cases has dropped considerably since July, where the country was averaging over 60,000 per day. Some places are starting to reopen again. So Florida is like, let's do it again. So I think they're going to be reopening with very few restrictions in place. And I've got friends and family living in Florida who are just like, I need to get out of this state. Things are crazy. So new cases are higher, but they are going down, like we said, compared to what it was in July. So some areas. So where new cases are lower, but going up: New Jersey, Rhode Island, Nevada, Colorado, Washington, New York, New Mexico, and Massachusetts. And things are going down in Indiana, Texas, North Carolina, Delaware, Florida, about time, West Virginia, Michigan, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, U.S. Virgin Islands, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and some other places. Deaths are increasing. Guam, North Carolina, Hawaii, North Dakota, Iowa, Utah, Arkansas, Indiana, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Alaska, and Missouri. So, good luck, Mr. Trump. Keep us posted via Twitter on how you get on. It'll be interesting to see how much he tweets now that he's in quarantine, because I've got to imagine that he's going to be so bored not being able to see anybody else. I mean, who quarantines with the president? Is it just him and his wife and that's it? Because, gosh, I feel sorry for her. Let's be honest, she doesn't seem to like him very much at times. So this will be interesting. Quarantine with him. And what about like his staff? Okay, he's quarantined. The White House is pretty big. They need to disinfect the White House. I guess his chefs and his other staff will bring him whatever food he's asked for, hopefully in a contactless manner. So, well, good luck. That's all I can think of right now to say to him. We'll see what happens. I mean, I wouldn't wish the coronavirus on anybody, because even people who have survived it have said, listen, this virus is no joke. And it brings with it a lot of other issues. And for months after supposedly having recovered from the coronavirus, there are people who are struggling to just sort of make it through, right? So quite an unfortunate situation, but let's move on. Okay, so what has been happening elsewhere around the world and here in the Cayman Islands? Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, Monica. Debbie says that's one way to get out of the next debate. Well, like I said, not really, because with modern technology being what it is, a debate can happen in a virtual space. So we invite people on this show and I never have contact with them. They can be anywhere in the world. So Trump can stay in quarantine. His IT staff can sort him out, or he can join a Zoom meeting by his phone, or if he has a computer. He can do all of those things. And why not? Gavin, good morning, my dear. How are you? I'm just pulling up what else we had on the agenda today. Marshall says here in North Carolina, the governor has opened phase 3 today. Okay, sounds interesting. Runika, good morning to you, my dear. Well, I doubt they'll be wanting to show too much affection right now, because even though she has it, they both are tested positive. I would still keep my distance just in case. Lizette, good morning. Yes, good luck to them. We'll pray for them. I'm sure that will work miracles. Anne, good morning to you. And we need to talk about the fact that our borders have reopened as of yesterday in a very soft phase-in manner. So here is what we know. Let me just check my email. The studio was down last night, so I didn't quite have access to my regular desktop. And I was doing a few things on the laptop, but the numbers that we have, let me just see here. It's 27 persons that have come in on day 1 of a reopening that will be self-quarantining. There is a press conference today, by the way. Please do not forget that there is a press conference at, there is a press conference at 2:00 today. So we should get some details on that. So just give me one quick second. I know that we did send this question in. Just trying to remember where the response came through. So there have been numerous persons from yesterday saying to me that there was widespread community transmission. That rumor has been in circulation from yesterday. Someone messaged me about it. I do not believe that that rumor is accurate. What I do think is going on is that there may be another case of local transmission. So stay tuned for that today. I'm not saying that that's 100%. My source on that is reliable, but they themselves are like, this is what I'm hearing. So no exact confirmation, but there's a possibility that there is one more community transmission case, and they will be making that announcement during the press conference today. So you got to tune into the press conference. Of course, we will have it here on our live stream so that you can check that out. 120, just give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up the number. Internet seems a little bit slow today. I'm sure it's not the internet. It's more like, it's more like my computer might be getting a bit overwhelmed. But I believe it's 127. I can correct that here in a second. Individuals that have come in on that first flight, and they are now going into self-quarantine. So this will be a good test to see how the self-quarantining measures are working. Of course, like I have always said, you're only as good as your weakest link. And the weakest link in this chain of people self-quarantining at home is their ability to have contact with people who come into their house. So this is where it's perhaps a little bit concerning. So we had 5 international inbound flights yesterday, 3 private jets, and a total of 191 passengers touching down on Thursday. And this, again, is now phase 1 of the border reopening. So there you have it. 191 passengers. This is strange. I was actually just trying to have a look at the Compass to see what they had up, but their website isn't working. Can anybody else tell me? Is something going on the Compass website? Can anyone get to it? Or let me try it in another browser. Or are they down? Compass Cayman. You always have to put that in because otherwise all sorts of other websites come up. They have that whole paywall thing now. So a lot of people are not paying for the service. That's strange. So it's coming up on one browser, but not the other. Very bizarre. Maybe they've got, there we go. Now it's loading. Strange. Yes. So 5 international flights. We can't really say much about it yet. I mean, they just landed yesterday. So we've got to watch and see how well it works. I think today's press conference, we will hear more from the travel time team on precisely how this works and what their feedback is in terms of, in a couple weeks, how it's working. Yeah. So we shall see. Again, in my mind, the weakest link in all of this is just to make sure that they're not in contact with people. If you work in the delivery services, folks, you have got to be very, very careful because you will not know if someone is quarantined or not. So when you go to somebody's house, use contactless steps to carry out your delivery services. So sometimes I order something for delivery. And the other day I ordered something from a local restaurant here in the Savannah area from Countryside or Country Corner or whatever it's called. And when they delivered it, I gave them my credit card information over the phone because I want to be as contactless as possible. And when they showed up to my front door, they were still like, oh, sign this. Here's a pen that God knows how many people have touched, and we need you to sign this piece of paper. I'm like, that's not contactless. That is full of contact. And that, in my mind, says to me that people still are not getting it. Delivery people. You know, if you own a restaurant right now, you need to be having this conversation with your staff. Contactless means you don't touch me, you don't touch anything that I touch, and vice versa. So if you're showing up to my door with a package and asking me, you know, my food, and you're asking me to sign and you hand me a clipboard with a pen on it, all those things are now being touched. So if you have it, or if I have it, if I'm in quarantine and I'm picking up food for you, and I don't tell you that I'm in quarantine, because not everybody will say that to you, you have just exposed yourself. And this is now where it's going to pick back up in terms of community transmission. I don't know, folks. I'm not convinced that we are going to get it right, and I'll tell you why. The bottom line is no place that has reopened has been able to maintain their numbers of little to no infections once they've reopened. Even with a phased reopening, even with all the electric gadgets in the world, the iSmart watch, the this, the that, whatever, it just hasn't happened. There's too many potential breaks in the chain. We've seen that the last couple, with the exception of the one community transmission that we had the other day, which had no travel history, which means we still have the virus here. For the most part, for the past couple months, all of the infected persons have been coming into Cayman. They've been travelers. And in the one instance, the traveler tested positive and we allowed them to go out before we go, oops, oh my God, pull them back in. They're actually positive. So all I can tell you is we all need to be afraid right now. We all need to be wearing our mask. And yes, I would be extremely concerned about how this is going to play out and precisely what is going to happen. Right? So that's what I can tell you. Keep the faith otherwise, and just do what you can do, and do what you must do to try to keep yourselves and your families safe. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with continuing to wear masks. There's certain places still, medical facilities, if you go to the eye doctor in their location, they will ask you to continue wearing a mask as well. So businesses still have the option to request that you wear a mask, and if they do so, I think it's only fair that you respect their requests. All right, let's have a look then at what else we had on the agenda this morning. Oh yes, I wanted to do a quick knee update. So I know a lot of you were inquiring about how my appointment went yesterday. So as you guys recall, yesterday morning, I did a mini live stream from the car, driving hands-free and safely with my eyes very much on the road to work. I had an appointment. So I had to take my daughter to school, and then I went to my appointment. So the appointment was for me to find out about my knee. So in case you haven't really been following the whole knee saga, I would say sometime in August, I noticed one day I was getting up after having a lunch meeting. I hear Coco outside my door, by the way. I was having a lunch meeting and I got up only to realize that my knee felt like it had aged a good 40 years. And so all of a sudden I go from being a 40-something-year-old to being like an 80-year-old in my left knee. And I'm thinking, oh, why am I so stiff all of a sudden? It hurts. And, but I was only noticing it when I got up. If I'm walking, like right now I'm actually standing because a lot of times I stand to do the show. Give me 1 second. Coco's going to drive me insane if I don't let her in. So permit me to attend to Coco, the dog, and allow her to come in. Otherwise, she's not going to be very happy.
Miracle Brokers International is a shipping, moving, and logistics company. You get all our expertise in one stop. Our motto is shop, ship, and save. All shipments are important to MBI, and we'll track your items during shipment, clear through customs on arrival, and deliver to your door. MBI will spend the time in lines to get your cargo for you so you can be more productive with your time. Miracle Brokers, the solution broker. 345-925-5989 or miraclebrokers.com.
All right, folks, I didn't put my mic back on there. Okay, so Coco likes to come in to the studio where she will sit behind me in the chair. You can't really see her this morning, but she is sitting there in the chair. And she's a dog. Dogs love to be around you. They love their family. And once they are around you, then they feel okay. They feel safe. They want to be, sometimes like they're like kids. I swear they're just like children. Sometimes children want to be right up under you. Mommy, I need you. I want to be with you. And then other times they're off doing their own little things. That's how Coco is. She's a little kid, I should say, not a big kid. So yes, back to the knee update. So I went for about maybe a month trying to figure out what it was and whatever. And then I thought to myself, maybe I need to go to the doctor to really get a diagnosis for what this is, because it wasn't getting any better. So I went to the doctor, saw the orthopedic surgeon, and basically he has said, which is what he suspected, he did an initial physical exam, and he said, I think you might have a torn meniscus, but we will know for sure if we do an MRI, and there's different types of tears, and the MRI is very detailed, and so we'll know what we need to know. So sure enough, the results came in yesterday that I do have a torn meniscus. Now, what does this mean? This basically means that in my case, it is a vertical tear, and apparently there are different types of tear, right? And this is considered a relatively common injury surrounding the knee area. And it can be caused by anything like hyperflexing. So in other words, maybe I was, moving too much in one direction, or I sat down a particular way and had the knee bent where it did some damage to the meniscus area. And so the meniscus, as far as I understand, is it's cartilage that kind of surrounds the knee. And so the MRI showed that I do have a lateral tear of the meniscus. Everything else looks good. So there's no, arthritis. There's no like joint wear and tear issues. The cartilage outside of that looks good. Everything is normal and everything looks fine. Just this one little tear that is considered a lateral tear. And so what we will do is to continue a course of anti-inflammatory drugs to just maintain the pain. I can still do some exercising. Can't do anything that would put any impact on the knee. So no running, no tennis, none of that kind of stuff. But, elliptical machines would be fine. And essentially, I'm going to do therapy. So, a meniscal tear is one of the most frequently occurring cartilage injuries of the knee. And so therapy is the best way for me to try to work through this, physiotherapy. So the meniscus is really, really important because if it's a piece of cartilage, he took out his little diagram and showed me everything. But it's a piece of cartilage in the knee that actually cushions and stabilizes the joint. So you don't want to, be having pain in that area, if you know what I mean. And it could have even just been a twisting of the knee. Something as simple as that can actually tear the meniscus. So thankfully, it wasn't like shredded cartilage that like broke loose or anything more serious, because there are much more serious ways that you can tear it, and it's not that type of an injury. So what we're going to do is some physiotherapy just to see if we can manage it and allow it to heal on its own. So in a couple months, I'll sort of do a follow-up appointment. I wasn't having any popping in the knee or anything like that. So there was no swelling or anything. So yeah. So, and for the most part, when I feel it is when I'm sitting and I go to get up. So we will be doing some knee strengthening exercises and some physiotherapy to hopefully get this under control. And if we can get it under control, then, the body will heal itself. If it doesn't heal itself, then that means we'd be looking at something a little bit more invasive, such as surgery. And fingers crossed, From my lips to God's ears, I hope there would be no surgery involved. Bruce says, once the virus is surging, your previous comment that this is going to be a nightmare for Melania Trump to be locked up with him for at least 2 weeks. Yes, possibly. Daphne says, but they touch the food or the box. Well, here's the thing. This is where you got to know how the contactless thing works, right? It's okay if I am someone who has traveled from overseas and someone gives me something that they have touched. It's transmission the other way, right? So presumably, because we have such a low rate of community transmission, the chances of my delivery person having it is slim to none, right? So I'm not worried about, because I'm in quarantine. So I'm the one who is worried about passing it the other way. If someone gives it to me and I'm already in quarantine, well, that'll show up in my test results. And the second test that I do, because remember, we were testing people at the airport. So the person who is delivering the food, they are the most at risk because they are in the community. So Daphne, the concern would be for a recent traveler who doesn't yet have a confirmed negative test, to then be in contact with others to pass it on to them. That's where the concern lies. Bruce says that we shouldn't be opening at all because the virus is not under control in the US or the UK. Someone mentioned to me, by the way, this morning, they are trying to get back from overseas. And they were saying that travel time doesn't really tell people this, but if you're in Europe, in parts of Europe, that you have to go from wherever you are in the world to London, and that they didn't mention to them that Europeans cannot fly to Miami in transit to Cayman. And they said that this is a very expensive proposition for them to go from the country that they are at to London, and then from London to Grand Cayman. And the flight only comes in fortnightly. So you got to kind of time it right. And of course, that means that you're going to be spending a portion of time probably in London before the flight is available. Diana, no strategy is 100% safe. You're absolutely correct. There are no guarantees, absolutely none. 100% safe. Well, nothing in life, I guess, comes with that type of a guarantee, I'm afraid. So we have just got to do our best. Just like we're not 100% COVID free. We know that to be a fact. But I guess the logic is, even if you are 95%, 96% good, and you catch the cases while they're still in quarantine, then you have a chance of being as safe as you can. You know what I think should happen? For every single person, and I don't know that Travel Time is doing this, but I would suggest they do it. For every single person that is in quarantine, they should be made to keep a log of all visitors and all activity. So they're not really supposed to be having any visitors into the home, but even when food is delivered. So they need to keep a very detailed diary of what is happening in their lives. So if I order breakfast from Full of Beans or whatever, they're not Full of Beans anymore, but say some breakfast place, and they deliver at 8 a.m., I should have to write that down. On the 2nd of October, 8 a.m., delivery from so-and-so. Just in the event that you end up testing positive later on, your contact tracing is the easiest thing in the world to do, because you give them your diary. You say, here's my log, and Travel Time, pay attention, because I would like you to actually implement this. This is a great idea. And now you go, okay, you've tested positive. We know who's been to your house. We know when you had food delivery on these dates, who you ordered it from. We know you've used Let's Eat, take down, the date and time so that they can check their driver's schedule and see who would have delivered your food from such and such a restaurant. You guys are with me? This is how we help each other out here, right? So I might have an idea. No need to hold it for myself. Share your ideas, folks. That's what we're all here for. Hi, Gavin. Gavin, are you laughing at Coco being my co-host? Yes, she is. Let me tell you, she likes to be in the mix and the thick of things. She likes to be on the mall road, and then she falls asleep on the job. She's over there curled up in a little ball already taking a nap. So Sue says she's got family in the UK. You have to wait until the 26th of November to get a flight and then straight into quarantine. Good. They should be going straight into quarantine. So that is what it is. But yes, Diana, I agree with you. There's nothing that's 100%, but there are checks and balances and things that we can put in place to try to make the process as tight as we possibly can. So 16 days in the government facility, I thought it was 14 days. Nobody can have them in their homes here. Oh, they're going to go into the government facility. So yes, it's 14 days and then you test. And I guess depending on the results of the test, you kind of take it from there. So absolutely. Good morning, beautiful Barbara. Thank you so much for tuning in. So yesterday I went to Wells and grabbed some lunch to go because I actually had a very busy day yesterday. Big shout out, by the way, to Aeropost. We're going to be going by them later on this afternoon. You've got to tune in. I'm not going to tell you what I got coming, but you've got to tune in because we're going to be doing a live stream from Aeropost because they have been bringing in a lot of stuff and a lot of equipment that has made the CMR journey and improvements possible. I'm going to show you a little peek though of some of my studio changes. It's still in the works. So it's not 100% finalized as yet, but my tech team, which means that's my hubby, he's the tech team. He has been hard at work trying to make my studio workspace a little bit more functional. And he has ordered stuff and done all sorts of a setup for me. I'm going to show you a picture here of what he's been up to. We had a construction guy here last night drilling into the concrete wall because these walls are concrete, making sure that my setup is a little bit more user-friendly and easy. So what I had previously was my computer monitors on a standing desk, and then I would have to like lift it, but it's a really big standing desk. And I've actually had it for years. It's one of those things I invested in because, you know, they tell you you shouldn't be sitting down all the time. It's not healthy for you. And so you try to give yourself options. Like if I want to stand, I can stand. If I want to sit, I can sit. I find that for doing this show, standing for me is probably 95% of the time a much better option, right? Because when I sit, I actually, you guys have noticed it, I'll start yawning and doing the most when I'm sitting down because of just the position that you're in. So for speaking, even for 2 hours, I'm standing the entire time of this show. So I get up and it helps my diaphragm if I'm standing up for a little bit and so on. So, but I need a flexible option because obviously I can't stand all day long. So he has been coming up with ideas for me on how to make my workspace a little bit more technically useful and friendlier. And so he's got all sorts of things now mounted. My monitors are mounted to the wall. I still have my dual monitor set up, but he's like switched my monitors around a little bit for me. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek if I can bring up the photo here. Let me just see. Where did I put that? Yeah, so that you can get an idea of what the behind the scenes setup looks like. It is very, very interesting. Now, if I can find it, that would be good. Let me see where I've sent it to. Sometimes trying to find things on a computer is like near impossible. There's so many pictures and stuff on here. Here we are. So yes. And then after this, I want to talk about the campaign trail a little bit here in the Cayman Islands. So there it is, folks. He has like everything mounted to the wall. So there's the camera. There's the light that gives me a little bit of light. I think I might have to invest in another light, but we'll see what hubby thinks about that. And so if you can see to the right, you see that big black thing? That was my desk before. It took up a lot more space. So what he has done for me now is he's got me a smaller standing just keyboard holder, basically. Doesn't take up as much real estate on my desk, as much space. And I still have my setup then with the 2 monitors. So big shout out to good husbands who think of things that their wives need, and they go to great lengths to make sure that it is a workable solution for you. So I'm still going to tweak this setup a little bit here to get it exactly where it needs to be, but that's kind of what we're looking like. So big thank you there. And you guys see my law books right above my head. I've only got 2 law books on evidence, and then all the rest of these are some other good books that everybody should read, in my opinion. So Dean Chalette says, we are doomed. We seem to be doomed for making the same mistakes as others. I agree with Sandy. Common sense. Yes. The government says that we need to give it a chance because we cannot maintain a closed border solution. We need people coming in to help the economy. Lillian is having a good laugh. She said, you sounded just like Trump. Oh my God, no. With your brilliant idea and agreeing with yourself, I think Travel Time already have that in place or something similar. Well, I don't know. I haven't heard them say that, Lillian, so we can't think that what they may have in place. Maybe we just need to tell them. Yeah, so Bruce says, many people that I speak with are suffering with some level of mental stress and could find it very difficult. Yes. Nobody wants another lockdown. Trust me, it would not be easy. It would be worse, I think, than the first time. It's like getting your freedom. It's like being incarcerated and someone says to you, okay, you're free to go. Here's your get out of jail pass. And then a couple months later, they go, oh, we've made a mistake. We need to put you back in jail because the parole board got it wrong. And you're like, what? You got a taste of freedom. And then you're back in lockdown again. OMG. We wouldn't want that. Thank you so much, Bruce. Bruce, I enjoy your contributions. Big shout out to Larry. Is Larry here this morning, by the way? Larry messaged yesterday to say how much he enjoys listening to the program from overseas and that Cayman is his second home at the moment, but one day he hopes to make it his first home. And of course, he keeps it locked here to Cayman Mall Road for all the latest and greatest news that's happening in the islands. Big thank you to all of you who have, been super fans to not just this podcast show, which is now Monday through Fridays, but who have just continued to support CMR. I really, really appreciate it. And in fact, you guys send us tips and breaking news and information all the time. So I appreciate that. I was telling you guys, I went to Wales yesterday. Oh gosh, morning accident at 7:26. So a big truck rear-ended a little car by credit union this morning. Yikes. All right, folks, you got to be careful out there. Everybody knows that the rain is, on the streets. However, just take your time. What's the rush? Where are you going? Can I just ask you, where exactly are you going in such a hurry? Well, I tell you where you're going to be going. You're going to be rear-ending people, apparently. So that's not the plan. That's not what we want to do. Evelyn, where are you off to? You sound like you're going somewhere. Evelyn sounds like she's got some work to do. All right. So, yes, folks, thank you for your continued support. I was just going to say that yesterday, in fact, a couple of times I ran into people who were like, thank you so much for what you do. I watched the show. I watched your program. There was an elderly gentleman at the hospital when I went to my appointment. And he was saying, he doesn't catch it all the time, but he loves that he can go back later on and watch it. and he had watched the previous morning show that evening. And he said, heaven forbid he's hospitalized, because he's like, the internet here sucks and I don't get to do anything fun when I'm in the hospital. But he did mention that he enjoys watching the show and keeping abreast of what is going on. And then when I went to Welly's to grab some lunch, I had another gentleman there. He was so nice. He was helping me open the door because my hands were full. I was trying to grab the umbrella. And then on top of that, it was pouring rain yesterday as well. So I think we're going to have a rainy weekend for sure. And so he basically said that, listen, I watched your program. I watched what you do. And thank you so much. To please keep up the good work. And he said, listen, I know that 90% of the people out there support what you do. And the few naysayers, who cares what they have to say? And I was like, oh, I said, thank you so much for that. Because, people, even when people support you, they don't have to say anything, because we know a lot of people silently just watch. And he said he's one of those people. He's like, I'll never get on a show and make a comment, but he said, trust me, I am there and I'm watching and I support you. And I just want you to know. And I said, thank you. And he said, you know what? If I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know. And I wanted you to know. So there you go. Thank you so much to that gentleman at Welly's yesterday. Morna says that she likes the space. It looks good. Yes, we're going to continue to fine tune it just a little bit. I think my lighting situation needs to be fine tuned. I may have to get a second light, to be honest, because for these types of situations, especially today being a little bit of a darker day outside, so I don't have any natural light coming in. This is when it's apparent that you notice how dark the background is. I do need a little bit more lighting in here. Yeah, so Sue says those trucks like to drive fast, scaring people out of the way. I always try to move out of the way. Like when I see those dump trucks or whatever coming, I'm like, listen, let me save you the trouble of running into me. Let me just scoot over into another lane if you can. But sometimes you cannot. Sometimes, it's like they're right on top of you. Let me see what else is going on. So yes, people were messaging me at 11:43 p.m. to say, did you hear that Trump got the virus? And yes, I did. So listen, oh man, there's a young man. You guys saw the story that we put up about the assault at the government school. And we are working on a story, by the way, of an incident or more that's being investigated at CIS, which is Cayman International School, where a young man is being accused of harassing girls for inappropriate photos of themselves. There's allegations of him potentially being involved in some kind of marijuana drug trade as a 13-year-old. And so yesterday, someone sent me a picture of a young man who was involved, I guess, in this assault. And my God, listen, this is not for the faint of heart. So if you are a person who is very sensitive, let me use that word, I want you to turn away now, because I'm going to show you something here in a second. I got to pull it up. Ugh. I'm trying to find it. This is just unbelievable. And it makes me wonder, what the heck are our kids doing in schools? Fighting. This poor kid is going to have his teeth fixed now because of this incident. Let me just show you what this looks like. Hold on. I'm trying to fix it so I can protect his identification. So I want to take out as much of his face as possible, but I want you guys to see how he's been injured. What is happening with our kids? Oh my God. People, as a parent, I would be pissed off if somebody did this to my son. I gotta tell you the truth. All right, let me see now if I can save this. And then put this up. So, as you guys know, we don't hide anything from you guys here on the show. We put it out there. There are times that minors that we do try to hide their identification. There's sometimes we don't. I'm going to talk about that here in a second because some of you brought up this baby that was in the car. So when things happen in public, there's no protection. When a child is being endangered by an adult, especially if it is something like this, where they're in a car and it's not like a sexual abuse case. Obviously, we would never show that type of video footage anyway. And we have come across that type of footage, unfortunately, in our work here in media and being on social media. And those things we report to the authorities and the police immediately. And there are times when we have had to capture for them the video evidence because whatever reason, they don't know how to capture it or whatever. So hold on one second here. Look at this young man. So this young man was involved in that fight that we reported, and where a person has now been arrested for assault. Well, they're investigating. Let me put it this way. They are investigating a report of an assault. I don't know what there is to investigate when you see this kind of injury. And I can tell you what, if I was this kid's parent, oh my God. Woo. Look at this. I think he lost a tooth or two. What the hell? Now he's going to have that. That's dental surgery. And I don't know anything about this kid or his parents or anything, but that's money now that his poor parents have got to find for reconstructive surgery. Lord have mercy. What are our children doing in schools? Unbelievable, right? Well, this apparently is what some of them are up to. Some of the shenanigans that they're up to is fighting each other. And beating each other up. Wow. It's scary. I feel sorry for this young man. Morna is asking about the teacher at Savannah. I do have some information, not as much information as I would like. So that will go up. There's a teacher who passed away. That will go up a little bit later on. So stay tuned for that, Morna. Yes, we're going to update you guys on that via the website for sure. So this is a report of an assault that took place at the CIFEC location on September the 30th. The kid was taken to the hospital. 2 male juveniles at the location were engaged in a physical altercation that resulted in one of them receiving facial injuries. And this young man was taken to the hospital. He is going to need reconstructive surgery, at least on his teeth. And that can be expensive. Folks, if this is his adult tooth, and this fight has caused him to lose his adult tooth. And I'm thinking if he's at CIFEC, this is definitely his permanent teeth that are in, right? So it's not like another tooth is going to come into its place. What this means is he's going to have oral surgery. And he's going to have to either get an implant or what are the fake teeth called that they put in? But the preferred way now is to have an implant done. And implants, folks, are not cheap. I don't know if I have priced an implant because it's on my list of things that I need to have done. But what I can tell you is not only are they not cheap, I mean, you're talking at least probably on average, I would say anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, maybe even $5,000. It depends. The front teeth are even more like you really got to get those right. You got to get the coloring right. There's so many things that you have to do. It's not fun. It has to be done over a period of time because what they do with an implant is they actually go into the gum line and they plant what's it called? They basically drill into your jawbone and they put the piece that's going to hold the implant in place, right? The screwing connections, whatever. They put that in there. They leave that for a number of months just to make sure that that's not going to have any complications, that will heal properly. And once they feel like that's set, then they come back and then they put the tooth on. So it is a complicated process. And a lot of people have to be put under to have a dental implant done. So not good. So that's what this young man and his family are now having to deal with. And I do not know if the young man that he was, involved with would have the financial resources, if his parents have the financial resources to even assist with getting this done. Not pretty. Yes, Sue, I did say CIS. They've got their own problems. Just because they're an elite private school does not mean that the kids are not running amok. What happens at CIS is they do a better job of covering it up and of hiding it. But there are parents there who are very concerned about what their children are being exposed to. And the parents themselves contact CMR on a regular basis. And they're like, listen, this is what's going on here. Can you dig into this? Can you find out what's going on? What's happening? And yeah, I mean, it's crazy at times. So we need to keep on top of things as parents. Like, you need to be constantly communicating with your children, finding out what their needs are, what's happening in school, talking to them, knowing who their friends are, even at school, because sometimes the friends that they hang out with at school might be a different set of friends than when they come home and whatever. But you need to know the company that your children are keeping and who these people are. Listen, just because you have money does not make you a good person. We see Andy McAlpine. He's arrested and he's got money, millions of dollars that he's stolen from other people. And having millions of dollars or access to money doesn't make you a good person. Money has nothing to do with it. Money just means that you can access good lawyers, you can access the best schools in the world and all these other things that really and truly help you to cover things up far longer and far more than they should be covered up. That's what money is all about. So Dawn shares that these big trucks, that she agrees with Sue, and there's a lot of inconsiderate drivers who like to honk their horn at you when they're driving, when you're driving the allotted speed limit or in the roundabouts and so on. So yes, but you know what, Dawn, I think by and large, we're not a community that uses our horns a lot. Like, I'm always a bit surprised when I go to Jamaica, for example, how obvious it is that they are people of horn users. I mean, they're on the horn a lot, honking and tooting, and sometimes it's like a friendly toot toot, how you doing? And other times they get in the horn, it's like, get out of my way. It's like a horn that is like a big curse word kind of thing, right? So, but I do notice here that sometimes people do use the horns a bit more than they need to be using them. And other times, not so much so. But, I think a horn should only be utilized under certain conditions, if it's an emergency situation. But let's face it, we all react at times. If someone pulls out in front of you, you're like, the first thing you do is get on the horn. Like, I'm trying to tell you something, but I know you can't hear me because you're too far away. So the only way you can tell it to that person is by laying on the horn and letting them have it by way of the horn. But yeah, I mean, I think the courteous thing to do sometimes is to lay off the horn a little bit. Not try to always get on the horn just because you can, sort of thing. So yes, I agree with you in that regard for sure. Testing if it still works, maybe. Yeah, and you know what is so funny is when you haven't used your horn in a while, you forget like where exactly on the steering wheel you need to press, because normally it's like a kind of like a very specific area, and you're like pressing the wrong area, like that's not where the horn is. So yeah, I mean, I don't think generally speaking, people in Cayman overuse the horn. However, having said that, I do also believe that we could think about whether it is appropriate to use the horn or not. Okay, so we're on the campaign trail, folks. Election 2020 is literally right around the corner. We're watching the US election as a sideshow, but really and truly, we have a lot of our own election to be most concerned about. And lots going on. So this week we had 2 more candidates come forward in terms of them putting their name forward for consideration. Miss Gina Williams has come forward. And I mentioned in yesterday's conversation that, you know, I was a little bit disappointed and concerned that some of the discourse online was about people over focusing on, you know, Gina's looks and as a woman. You know, I think that that's unfair. Someone actually made the comment that it's mostly women who are going to do that. And I thought to myself, maybe it's mostly women who are going to vocalize it for sure. But I think there's some merit to that. More importantly, we don't care what Gina looks like. All we need to know is what she says her contributions will be to the election, or to the country, I should say, and what her experiences have been. Like, why do we, you know, when people put themselves up for political office, I think that we need to say, hey, you want to run for office? That's great. Anybody can run for office pretty much once you meet the criteria, Cayman and parent, whatever. But let us see a track record of what you have done in the past, and that might have us understand your vision and what you see for the country in terms of solutions. So people want to hear the solutions. There were some people that have shared that they were put off by the fact that she was using God as her platform, because a lot of people, I think, are a bit tired of that rhetoric. That's what we have in Savannah right now, and that is not a way to necessarily lead a country. There's a time and place for our religious beliefs to be, you know, employed, but people don't feel like that should be the foot that you're stepping out with when it comes to politics and making decisions about what's in the best interest of the country. Frank Matfield also came out, so he has made his declaration for Prospect. So the field in Prospect is looking a little bit crowded. We have 3 confirmed persons with the anticipation of potentially more persons announcing in due course for Prospect as well. Who else have we got? Georgetown South. So far, we've got Alric Lindsay. So Alric has declared early, and he's been working very, very hard on a number of things. Alric will actually be joining us on Monday's show. I know I initially told you guys he'd be here today, but Alric actually sits on the parole board. So that's one of the things that he does a lot. You may not even know. So Alric does a lot. You guys don't always know. But he sits on the parole board as part of his service to the country. And they actually meet on Fridays, I understand. So he was not able to come today, but he will be here on Monday's show. So make sure you tune in on Monday. We're going to talk to him. We're probably going to do another Conversations with segment with him over the weekend as well. So our political interview segments are going to be called Speakeasy. Just speakeasy, my friend. Tell the truth and speak easy. That's all we're going to ask of any of our politicians. So we are looking forward to that. There are rumors afoot that Straight Talk newest host, Catherine Tyson, is considering running her or throwing her hat in the political arena as well. Now, what I can say about that is my sources are pretty reliable that that's what she's thinking now, but that could very well change. I'm not sure why she would be deciding to take up the post as host of a talk show of Straight Talk, which is over at Star 92.7. And then almost immediately, within a couple months, resigning to run for political office. I think if that happens, it's one of those situations where people will see it as a bit of a duplicitousness involved. Like, in other words, people are going to say, and this is, how people interpret your actions, that the only reason you decided to do the talk show is to position yourself in your mind in a better position to run for political office, and it will not be as effective as you would think. That's what people are going to think, in my opinion. Ruth Anna, who was in the post for about 3.5 years, has left and resigned. And now that she has left, everybody's like, well, that means that Ruth Anna is running. Well, we have spoken to Ruth Anna about that rumor, and she has said no, she is not running. She's not planning on running this time around. I think she expressed some interest earlier on, and maybe that as well is why people are thinking that she is going to be running. But she said no, she's actually not going to be running. She's going to be focused on her child as well as her real estate career. And so she has taken up real estate as of late. And so that's what she's going to be doing. So yeah, so super, super interesting developments. We will continue to keep an eye at exactly what is happening so that we can inform you, of course, of where things are at. So good luck to Catherine on her new show. Catherine has filled in, I think, on Radio Cayman a number of times previously for the host over there. And so she should be able to do a perfectly fine job at Star 92.7. It's difficult when you run a radio station, for sure, to be able to get staff that are going to stay. And I think Ruth Anna, to be fair, had a long run. 3.5 years is actually pretty good. In fact, Austin Harris, who started the show back in 2015, remember it was Straight Talk with Austin Harris. He obviously left the show to run for political office, and he got elected, and that worked well for him. I feel like a lot of people just assume that once you have a talk show that the next logical step is that you must run for political office. And I do get the sense that that is why a lot of people on this show oftentimes will say that to me, like, run for political office. And it's just because you see me every day. Maybe things feel a little bit familiar. And maybe I have one or two good ideas, but I don't think that that necessarily makes you a good candidate for political office. There's numerous factors, folks, that go into that decision, in my opinion. And who knows, I might be a great candidate for political office, but I have to be willing to obviously buy into that, as well as the people who might be saying, do it, do it, do it. And I think for the time being, I am perfectly suited where I am at the moment. I think I'm doing a fantastic job. What do you guys think? I'm sounding like Trump, as somebody pointed out earlier. I'm tooting my own horn now. I'm doing a great job right here on Cayman Mall Road. Don't you think so? Yes. Cast your vote, folks. Let me just see what else I wanted to touch upon this morning. So 2 beautiful Caymanian women right there. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, let me just have a look. Did I show you guys the COVID map? Yes, I think I showed this to you already. Awesome. All right, pensions. Let me advise you of the latest news on the pension situation. So please, people, make sure you know what's going on now. At this particular time, there will be no extension of the emergency pension withdrawals. The government during the last press conference was asked about it, and they said it was highly unlikely. Okay? So, that being the case, what you need to know is whatever you got, that's it. You're done. You're not getting any more. And you've got to just be prepared to save that, hopefully. Spend it wisely. Don't go out and buy a new car like what I've heard some people doing. That's probably not a good idea. Yes. They have extended, however, the pension holiday. So let me give you the distinction between the two. So the pension holiday is where your employer would be taking money out of your pension fund. So that now will not be happening. So they will not be taking your money out for a further 3 months. So that has been extended, but the actual pension, emergency pension withdrawal has now stopped. Well, it will be stopping at the end of October. So you've got until October the 31st to get your applications into your pension service providers. And that will be, what it is. Let me forewarn you that Fidelity, if you are with Fidelity, I continue to get complaints from people. This is just shocking and alarming in my opinion. But I continue to get complaints from people that they still have not received their money from June. I can't even process it. I really cannot process it. This is just absolutely unbelievable. So Fidelity is still woefully behind. All I can tell you is send your complaints to dlp@gov.ky. That's the Government Department of Labor and Pensions. They have the power to do what they got to do, folks. And motion detected at the front door. So they've got the power to be able to set this right, folks. And you've got to allow, I guess, government to do what they have to do. Amnesty, immigration amnesty. So the other thing that you need to be very much aware of is if you have been living here in the Cayman Islands, you are being encouraged to know what the law says. And the law says now your clock is running out in terms of amnesty. There have been more than sufficient opportunities for you to get on a repatriation flight and to return home, almost no matter where you're from. So what do I mean by this? Let me tell you the details. CBC, Cayman Islands Customs and Border Control, has said that the amnesty is ending. And what that means for you is that you need to be in full compliance. So full compliance, CBC, Works, which is in charge of immigration, has made an announcement that says that you need to make sure that if you are an employer or even an employee, it is your responsibility to ensure that despite the COVID-19 pandemic, that you are in full compliance with the laws of this country. Your people need to have work permits. They need to have valid work permits and all of those types of things. There is the immigration transition law, right, that you could potentially be in contravention of. So what do you need to do? If you have outstanding work permit fees, you need to make sure that those fees are paid immediately. You can go to work.ky for all of the details on how to do that. If you need to obtain a work permit or an amendment to a work permit, you also need to ensure that that is being done. You have no excuses now, folks. It's been in the news. It's been reported. We've given you all of the details. So if you're found to be in contravention of any of the border control or immigration laws, you will find yourself in trouble and they will prosecute you. So employers, pay attention. Employees, it is also your responsibility to know what your status is on this island. So again, Works is wanting you to be fully compliant with the laws as they relate to immigration, and CBC as they relate to border control issues. So if you were a visitor here, you would have been granted a certain level of amnesty, but now that amnesty is up, folks. And so get it together and do what you got to do. So in court yesterday, just to give you guys a little bit of a court update, I'm hoping to be able to go back today, but I do have a number of things on my agenda that wouldn't permit me to spend a whole lot of time in court. So you guys remember we've been following this HSA case where the prosecution has alleged that these two guys, one of them worked for government, I think, for like 20 years at the HSA or whatever. He was a supervisor in security, that they were supposedly stealing overtime. But I got to tell you, as I sit there and watch the case, I'm less convinced that they actually have a case that they're going to win. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. They were stealing overtime for other people to benefit other people, not themselves. What kind of fool does that, first of all? And the more we look at these logs and we see some of the issues with the logs, and of course, this is just my opinion, you know, there were clearly a lot of faulty ways in which people were just making mistakes, and you were relying on security guards to come in and manually sign in this big red book. And I mean, when I say big, the books are like this big, they're huge. So you get this big red book, you were asking to sign in. There might've been instances where, oh God, I'm running late, but I'm on my way. I call my friend, hey, sign me in real quick. I'm going to run to my station at the back of the hospital. You know, I'm not going to come to the front in the admin office and sign the book. There was so many things I think that were amiss and that were going on, and no implementation of like a proper, you know, computerized sign-in system where you just swipe an ID card or anything like that. It's just, it reminds me of, I can't remember what other case was highlighted some years ago with government inefficiencies, where government is just running a shit show, to be quite frank, in some of its departments and authorities, from HR procedures and whatever, how things are being handled. And they expect us to think that something criminal is going on. I'm not yet convinced, and I am sitting there watching some of the evidence, and I hope to get there today, because today they will have the guy from Financial Crime Unit, I guess, explaining why they think that the crime actually has been committed here. I think a person would be a fool to jeopardize their entire career, their entire livelihood, to give someone else a benefit and they get nothing out of it. Like, that's kind of like, what's the missing link here? You know, if an individual is getting a benefit, they're getting a kickback or something, then you go, okay, I can see the paper trail, show me the money. I can see why this is going to make sense. It's kind of like when you watch these murder mystery shows, you know, on TV, the whodunit, what are they called? Dateline, whatever, where they delve into who had motive. Motive is really important when you're looking at a crime. That's the mens rea. Who had motive to do this? And oftentimes, if you cannot show me motive, I'm just like, what? This doesn't make any sense. Why would you do it? You know what I'm saying? Why would you do it? It doesn't make any sense. And then when you hear the other sort of paperwork and documentation things that were going on, it sounds like maybe the supervisor was just in over his head. He got like 1 hour of training on how to, after he got in some issues back in 2014 with logging someone in for overtime payment when they actually hadn't worked on those specific dates. Then they turn around and give you like 1 hour of, okay, this is how you use the system. Maybe he's not all that smart with the computer, with spreadsheets and whatever. And he's like, listen, my guys are working. They need to get paid. I know they worked it and they need to get paid. Does it matter if I'm putting it in on the exact date that it was worked, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of questions. Let's just put it this way. They may have about another week left with this trial. The jury is there paying attention to all the details. They're going to be showing them some documents and stuff today. Yesterday was a wash because they didn't have all the IT stuff sorted out on how to show the jurors evidence of, you know, what they're alleging has happened. So they need to be able to pull it up on a computer screen to show it to them, and the IT department wasn't ready. So they spent most of yesterday connecting wires and computer screens and splitting HDMI connections and whatever to try to get that sorted out. So they should be back on this morning, far as I know, at 11 o'clock. I will try to get by for a bit. The other thing that is of interest in terms of the courts is that they are still deploying, or employing, I should say, social distancing. So when you go in there, they will have seats that are like taped off, that you can't sit in certain areas, and they're got you spread out, which is fine, but it is creating a little bit of an issue for the jurors and how they can even sit down and view evidence together. So they have to sit spaced out. And so for the purposes of viewing the screen, they're actually going to have to move 2 of the jurors and put them over on the other side of the courthouse, which is normally like the media box where media sits. So, you know, there are some things that are happening there that is going to make it a little bit more challenging for jury trials to continue in the immediate future. But anyway, that's what's happened. Yesterday in court was also Sylvia. Let me just get you her full name again. I forget. Sylvia. She's a lady with the 50-something dogs or something. That was the most dogs that have been confiscated ever. Sylvia Lewison. She was actually in court yesterday as well. It was another mention. I need to have a look at the file, but it looks like it's just been put off for another date. I don't know when the trial is actually coming up. But I will keep you guys updated in terms of what's happening in terms of that. So she did speak with us yesterday, and we'll talk a little bit more about that once we discuss the final outcome of her case, because she does make some interesting comments about the situation with her dogs. So that sums it up, folks. Today is Friday. 2 p.m. is the press conference. So by all means, please tune in here to Cayman Mall Road. We will be live streaming that. And again, there is a rumor afoot that there is at least one other positive case of a community transmission case this time around. We do not know, I should stress, if that rumor is correct or not, but it is on the Mall Road, not our Mall Road, but the Mall Road out there in the streets. They're talking. All right, folks, have a beautiful Coco. Have a Coco. She's gonna do it again. Have a beautiful Fab Friday. Hey, come here. Someone's on the other side of the door. That's why she's barking. Have a beautiful Fab Friday. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. All right, folks, have a beautiful Friday. We'll see you guys at 2 o'clock. Yes, Sue, everybody stay dry this weekend. Sue's going to go jump on the treadmill now for her knee. That's a fantastic idea. We'll see you guys at 2 o'clock for the live stream. And we've got some other news that we'll be posting up. So make sure you stay tuned to the website to get all of the latest news brought to you only by Cayman Mall Road.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.